Hello and welcome to our Street View episode for August 2019. I trust you're enjoying the very best of the summer weather. I'm coming to you live from our backyard and we're enjoying being outside to deliver this month's report. It's going to include a home as a sound long-term investment and what the economic benefits to our economy. And we're going to be taking a look at the sales and volatility of the summer market. So come on, let's get started. While I think we can all agree that housing makes for a great long-term investment, what are the other benefits that come from real estate trading hands in our economy? Let's take a look. The Toronto Real Estate Board produced this housing as a long-term investment infograph that I'm going to share with you, and I think it makes for some interesting reading, and it's got a great little visual graphic. And you know, every time a house trades hands, on average it generates $68,000 in revenue that is contributed into our economy. And it's not just the professional services involved. A good chunk of it is going into renovations, furniture, appliances, and other household purchases. And you know, that is happening. We have approximately 90,000 transactions that happen every year in the Greater Toronto Area. So you do the math. It's a lot of revenue that gets generated into peripheral businesses, and there's a watershed there. It's a good piece of our economy, and it supports housing, and it supports, you know, the great lifestyle we all enjoy living in the city. And you know, it also does great good to adding to our tax base. And what I mean by that is that in the years 2014 to 2016, the government received $2.9 billion in annual revenue from, you know, land transfer tax. Almost 55% of it, $1.6 billion. So they've got their finger in the piece of the transaction firmly. Income and payroll taxes that are a runoff, a byproduct of all the services that are provided in the transaction. And then retail goods that are purchased in people taking ownership of new houses, et cetera. And you know, it also supports jobs. There's 142,000 of them that are supported from the real estate industry in our economy. So I think it makes for some interesting perspective on just how big housing is in the GTA. Well, the Toronto real estate market in the middle of the summer still works on the same dynamics that we always talk about. And so with supply, it's always about the number of new listings. And for the month of July, it was up 3.7%. And we can see in the graph under the month of July that orange bar sticking up, just a little smidge, but it's pretty much in line with previous years. And that illustrates not only the seasonality, but the normal market that we experience. So things are pretty normal in that regard. What's not normal, and you can't see in this chart, is that when you have this idea of the number of active listings, like, you know, we get new listings coming in, but then properties getting sold take listings away from the market, and you're left with what are the active balance. And so that balance is actually down 9%, which would indicate, yeah, a lot of sales have been taking place. And that's exactly what's been happening. When we take a look at sales are up 24.3%, which is a big number. And we can see how that orange bar is just shot right up. And what I would say is, yeah, that is a change. Let's take a look at why that's happening. We can see at the beginning of the year, the orange bar was very much in line with the previous year through January, February, March. And it wasn't until April that we started to see sales happening at a greater volume. April, May, June, all very strong growth numbers. And now in July, instead of things slowing down like it normally would in the middle of the summer, it picked up. And so that's the number of transactions are up. That could be a little bit of pent-up demand, but it also is some micro adjustments in interest rates. Not in the variable rates so much, but in the fixed interest rates, we've seen bond yields have gone down a little bit. And so that results in lower fixed rate mortgage costs. So if you have a mortgage renewing, it's a great time to go shopping for a mortgage, just saying. But it's also another perspective. If we said, look, how many sales have happened so far this year compared with last year at this time? If this year is it ahead of last year or are we behind? 1 month doesn't make a whole year. When we add up those numbers, we find that this year is actually up 12% in terms of the number of sales, right, for the given year. So that's an interesting dynamic as well, saying maybe there's a little more affordability has come back into the market. Maybe there was a pent-up demand, people that decided to step back from the process are re-engaging the process now. You know, maybe a contribution of all of those factors. But how does that relate to price? It's up 3.2%. And we can see from our slide here, every single month this year, there's been this little incremental growth every month. And it has to do with, the affordability being completely maxed out and just these little micro changes, because the demand is still there. People want housing in the Greater Toronto Area, and they're limited by the financial limitations or mortgage qualifying that we've talked about. But it's still eking out a 3.2% increase, which is very balanced and sustainable, which I think is a healthy market for all of us and our economy. And we understand the economic benefits or implications if our real estate market were to implode. There's a lot of peripheral damage that can happen. So having a sustainable market is very healthy for our economy. And I think we really want to talk about, well, what are the individual home types and market areas that are being impacted with this growth? And so this is one of my favorite slides, because it really does kind of give us a snapshot. I know it's a lot of information, but I'll help you find what's important inside it. Is the lower left-hand corner has the year-over-year percentage change on sales over to the far left, and then on the right is average price growth year-over-year. So what housing type is growing by volume of sales? So what's selling the most? It's semi-detached, and it's in the 416 and the 905. Sales of those property types in those areas are up 42%, which is a huge number, 42%. Because, semis in Toronto are plentiful, but semis in the 905, not so common. They're much more a Toronto thing than a 905 thing. So it's interesting to see that. And so what about price then? It's still condo apartment, year over year, 7.7% increase. The condo segment continues to be a very solid performer. Number two would be townhouses, have gone up in value 5.5% year over year in the 416. And when we look at the 905, it's definitely the semi-detached house with its increased volume of sales. It's gone up in price 5.5%, which is also very interesting. So what is the property class and location that's struggling the most? You can see it there on the right-hand side. It's actually detached houses in the 416 is actually prices down 9.1%, which is really kind of weird, right? Why would a detached home be dropping that much in value? And this is the reason why. The upper end of the market has really changed. And I know for a lot of us it's not applicable. We're not shopping for $2 to $5 million homes, but it's that segment is trading less. And so that brings the overall average price down, and it illustrates a drop in price that I don't think is 100% accurate. I don't believe the average detached home in Toronto has gone down in 9% per se. Although I know the numbers are suggesting something otherwise, but I'm telling you that there's more to it than that. And so hold in there, you detached homeowners. It's not that bad. And so with that, I trust that you guys are having a fantastic summer. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to what we have to share today. And until next month, I'm Matt Emerson of Emerson Group Realty. I'll look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Bye for now.